안녕하세요. 코치 텐입니다. 자, 기억영어, 이제 좀 많이 해서 좀 정신이 나가는데 다시. 자, 편집 없이 갈게요. 자, 기억영어 50번째 스노볼 챌린지 시작하겠습니다. 네, 좀 이해를 해주세요. 네, 그러면 바로 시작하겠습니다. 지금 오늘 하는 건요, 공장에 앞에 하나, 둘, 셋, 세 개 했잖아요. 세 개, 4개 했으니까 4개 말고 또 5개 해서 총 9개를 할 겁니다. 자, 양이 좀 많지만 비슷한 패턴으로 가니까 어렵지 않게 할 수 있습니다. 자, 그럼 바로 보여드릴게요. 공장입니다. factory. 자, 오늘의 키워드 기억 폴더는요. 자, 휴게실, 그 다음에 캐비닛, 안전모, 안전복, 작업복이죠. 작업복, 안전화 이렇게 5개입니다. 자, 오늘의 기억 폴더 먼저 가볼게요. I go to the break room. I get into the break room. I go to the sofa. I sit down on the sofa. I take a break for 10 minutes. I get out of the break room. I open the cabinet. I put my backpack into the cabinet. I close the cabinet. I pick up my helmet. I put on my helmet. I take off my helmet. I tie it up. I buckle up. I take out my working uniform. I take out my working uniform. I put on my working uniform. I take off my working uniform. I zip up the zipper. I zip up the zippers. I unzip the zipper. I take out my safety boots. I put on my safety boots. I take off my safety boots. I tie them up. And I untie the safety boots. 됐습니다. 네, 5개 잘 나온 것 같고요. 자, 그러면 앞에서부터 여기까지 쭉 가겠습니다. 사무실, 미팅룸, 그 다음에 휴게실, 그 다음에 공장까지. 자, 갑니다. 준비. Go. I go to my office. I get into my office. I go to my desk. I sit down at the desk. I get ready to work. I pick up my ID card. I use my ID card. I wear my ID card around my neck. I clock in. I clock in. I clock out. I turn on my computer. I use my computer. I check my emails. I make a proposal to use my computers. I turn off my computers. I pick up my pen. I use the pen. I draw a mind map with the pen. I make a business plan. I use Excel. I use PowerPoint, the software program, and I print out the business plan. There is a calendar on the desk. I look at the calendar. I check the dates on the calendar. I check my meeting schedule with my clients. There are some business cards on the desk. I pick up some business card. I open my wallet. I put the business card into my wallet. I meet my coworkers. I see my coworkers. I say hello to them. I have a small talk with them. I go to the printer. I use the printer. I turn on the printer. I copy the business plan. I go to the fax machine. I wait for a moment. I receive a fax from my customers. I send the fax to my customers. I go to the step lounge. I get in the break room. I get into the break room. I go to the water purifier. I stand in front of the water purifier. I press the button. I drink some water. I pick up a coffee mix. I open the coffee mix. I pour the coffee mix into the cup. I pour hot water into the cup. I stir it, and I make a cup of coffee. I drink a cup of coffee. I pick up a paper cup. I use the paper cup. I pour some water into the cup. I drink some water. I go to the refrigerator, open the refrigerator. I take out the orange juice bottle. I close the refrigerator. There are some snacks on the trolley next to the refrigerator. I go to the trolley. I pick up some snacks, open the snacks. I eat some snacks. I go to the toast machine. I press the button. I use the toaster. I put 2 slices of bread into the toast, and I wait for 30 seconds. I take out the toast from the toaster. I go to the coffee machine. I press the button. I use the coffee machine. I make a cup of coffee. I drink a cup of coffee. I go to the sink. I turn on the water. I wash the dishes. I turn off the water. I pick up a glass cup. I use the glass cup. I pour some orange juice into the cup. I drink some orange juice. And I pick up a plate. I use the plate. I put the toast on the plate. I enjoy the toast. I pick up a fork and knife. I use the fork and knife. I eat the toast with jam to use the fork and knife. I go to the trash can, open the trash can. I throw the trash into the trash can. I close the trash can. And 미팅룸 했나요? 미팅룸 했나? 미팅룸 하고 창고로 가볼게요. 죄송합니다. 제가 조금 헷갈려가지고. And I go to the meeting room. I open the door. I get into the meeting room. I close the door. I turn on the light. I turn off the light. I turn on the switch in the meeting room. I turn off the switch in the meeting room. I stand in front of the reservation board. I check the reservation board. I look at the reservation board. I write down my name and time on the board. I book a meeting room. I go to the desk. I check the time. I sit down at the desk. I wait for my clients, and I get ready for the meeting with my clients. I bring my laptop to the meeting room. I open my laptop. I use my laptop. I search for the presentation file. I use the PowerPoint. I turn off my laptop. I use the beam projector. I connect the beam projector to my computers, and I do presentation. I turn off the beam projector. I pick up a mic. I use the mic. I turn on the mic. I turn off the mic. I pick up a laser pointer. I use the laser pointer. I press the button. I keep holding on it. I go to the whiteboard. I stand in front of the whiteboard. I pick up a marker. I draw a mind map. I write down my ideas on the board. I pick up a marker. I use the marker. I pick up an eraser. I use the eraser. And I go to the factory. I go to the main gate of the factory. I open the main gate. I close the main gate. I lock up the main gate. I unlock the main gate. There is a forklift next to the main gate. I go to the forklift. I get on the forklift. I start the engine. I drive the forklift. I use the forklift to work. There is an air compressor next to the main gate. I go to the air compressor. I turn on the compressor. I use the compressor. I turn off the compressor. There's a fire extinguishers next to the main gate for safety. I go to the fire extinguishers. I pick it up, and I check the expiration date on the fire extinguishers, and I put it back on the rack. I go to the break room. I get into the break room. I take a rest on the sofa. For 10 minutes, I get out of the break room. I open the cabinet. I put my backpack into the cabinet. I close the cabinet. I take out my helmet. I put on my helmet. I take off my helmet for safety, and I buckle up. I take out my uniform. I put on my uniform. I take off my uniform for safety. I zip up the zipper. I zip up the zippers. I unzip the zipper. I open the cabinet. I take out the safety boots. I put on my safety boots. I take off my safety boots. I tie them up, and I untie the safety boots. 됐습니다. 네, 잘 나온 것 같네요. 네, 이렇게 해서 마무리하겠습니다. 감사합니다.